I wasn't trying to change my life. I was just trying to finish my last delivery before midnight. Rain painted the city in silver streaks, neon signs buzzing like tired fireflies above convenience stores and late-night bars. My scooter splashed through puddles, my delivery box rattling behind me like it had secrets to spill. Soul never really slept, it just whispered louder at night. Last order, I muttered, checking my phone. Fried chicken. Extra spicy. Penthouse level. Of course. The building was one of those glass towers that looked down on the rest of the city like it owned the place. Security downstairs stared at me too long. I smiled too hard. Nobody stopped me. That should have been my first warning. The elevator rose in silence, soft jazz playing like it was mocking my nerves. Penthouse. Door A. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Harder. The door opened. In every survival instinct I owned screamed, "Run." Inside the apartment stood 6 Korean men in tailored black suits, arranged like a perfectly rehearsed nightmare. The air was thick with tension and gunmetal. At the center of it all sat one man, calm, relaxed, his elbows resting on the table like he was waiting for dessert instead of planning crimes. He looked up. Our eyes met. And my brain shut down. Because he wasn't just handsome. He was criminally handsome. Sharp jawline. Calm eyes. That dangerous kind of face that looked like it never begged for anything and always got what it wanted. Nobody spoke. I cleared my throat. "Ah," I said, holding up the chicken bag. "Extra spicy. No pickled radish." Somebody in this room has excellent taste and questionable timing. A beat. One of the men reached inside his jacket. I raised my hands instantly. "Hey! No refunds after delivery." The man at the table lifted one finger. Everything froze. He stood slowly, walked toward me, and stopped close enough that I could smell clean cologne and rain. "You're late," he said calmly. I blinked. "I'm 5 minutes early." A flicker of amusement crossed his face. "Name?" he asked. "Maya," I said automatically. Then frowned. "But I think you're not who ordered this." He glanced at the bag. Then at me. "I did," he said. The men behind him stiffened. My eyebrows shot up. "You did?" "Yes." "Well," I said, handing it over, "that'll be 28,001. Silence. Then. He laughed. Not loud. Not wild. Just a soft, surprised laugh, like he'd forgotten how. Every man in the room stared at him like the world had tilted. He took the bag, paid in cash, and added a tip so large I almost cried. "Have a good night," he said. I turned to leave. Then I saw it. On the table behind him, documents, weapons, photos of men with red X's across their faces. I froze. He followed my gaze. Our eyes met again. This time, his smile was gone. "You saw too much," he said gently. I swallowed. "I see a lot. I work in customer service." One of the men stepped forward. "Boss?" "It's fine," the handsome stranger said, never breaking eye contact with me. "She's interesting." That was not comforting. "What's your name?" I asked, because fear makes me stupid. "Jun-seo." Of course it was. "Well, Jun-seo," I said, squaring my shoulders, "unless you're planning to murder me, I suggest you let me go. I have rent to pay." A long pause. Then he smiled again. "Escort her home," he told his men. "What?" I snapped. "No. I don't need." "For protection," he said calmly. "Just tonight." I should have refused. I didn't. That night, the city felt different. Louder. Sharper. Like it was watching me walk into something I couldn't walk back from. And I didn't know it yet, but I had just delivered fried chicken. To the most dangerous man in Seoul. If someone had told me that accepting a courtesy escort from a stranger would turn into a full-blown hostage situation with manners, I would have pretended my scooter ran out of battery and sprinted home. But there I was, sitting in the back of a sleek black car that smelled like leather, money, and unresolved trauma. Two men in suits sat up front, silent as statues. One drove. The other stared straight ahead like blinking was optional. I cleared my throat. "So," I said, smiling politely, "do you guys usually kidnap delivery drivers, or am I special?" No response. "Cool," I muttered. "Love the customer service." The car glided through the city, neon lights sliding across the windows like we were inside a music video. We passed convenience stores, late-night bars, couples arguing under umbrellas. Life went on. Mine, apparently, had taken a detour. We stopped in front of my apartment building. Relief flooded me. Then the passenger door opened. Jun-seo stepped out of the car. Of course he did. He looked unfairly good under the streetlight, rain misting around him like the city itself was flirting. Black coat. Hands in his pockets. Calm expression like he wasn't the reason my heart was trying to punch its way out of my chest. "Why are you here?" I asked. "To make sure you're safe," he replied. "I am safe. I live on the 3rd floor. The biggest threat is my neighbor's karaoke." He tilted his head slightly. "Humor under pressure. Interesting. I'm hilarious under pressure. Less so when men with guns know my address." His lips twitched again. "You'll be staying somewhere else tonight." I laughed. Out loud. Sharp. "Absolutely not." He didn't argue. He just looked at me. And somehow that was worse. 10 minutes later, I was back in the car. Jun-seo's apartment was ridiculous. Floor-to-ceiling windows. City skyline glowing like a jewel box. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than my entire life. The kind of place where you felt underdressed just breathing. He handed me a pair of slippers. "They're clean," he said. "That's comforting. The kidnapping is still a concern." "This isn't kidnapping," he replied calmly. "You're free to leave." I stared at the locked door behind me. He removed his coat, rolled up his sleeves, and walked toward the kitchen. "Are you hungry?" he asked. I blinked. "Didn't I just bring you food?" "Yes." "You didn't eat." "I wasn't invited." "You are now." I should have said no. I didn't. We sat at opposite ends of the island, eating leftover fried chicken in awkward silence. The city hummed outside. Somewhere below, a siren wailed. "So," I said finally, "are you always this intense?" He swallowed, considering. "Only when necessary." "And is tonight necessary?" "Yes." "Because of me?" "Because of what you saw." I sighed. "Figures." Another silence. Then he added, "Also because you're bad at lying." I scoffed. "Excuse me?" "You pretended not to be scared," he said. "But your hands were shaking." I glanced down. They were steady now. "People usually don't notice that," I said quietly. "I notice things," he replied. The air shifted. I stood abruptly. "Okay. Ground rules. 1. I sleep alone. 2. No creepy watching. 3. If this ends with me in a basement, I will haunt you." He smiled, fully this time. "I don't have a basement." That's exactly what someone with a basement would say. Later, he showed me the guest room. Simple. Clean. City view. "I'll have my men outside," he said. "You're safe." "You keep saying that." "I mean it." I hesitated. "Why?" He paused at the door. "Because," he said slowly, "I don't like chaos. And you bring controlled chaos." I snorted. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. As he turned to leave, I called after him. Jun-seo? He looked back. For what it's worth, thanks. He nodded once. Sleep well, Maya. The door closed. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, heart racing. This was insane. I barely knew him. He barely knew me. And yet, I smiled. Because for the first time in a long time, the city outside felt quiet. And somewhere between fried chicken, fear, and an accidental sleepover, I had a terrible feeling. This was only the beginning. I woke up to sunlight, city noise, and the sudden realization that I had slept in a Mafia boss's guest room without being murdered. Progress. The apartment smelled like coffee and something warm and comforting, like normal life had wandered in by mistake. I stretched, padded into the kitchen, and found Jun-seo standing by the window, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly messy like he'd forgotten to be intimidating for a moment. He handed me a mug. I don't know how you take it, he said. I guessed. I took a sip. Perfect. I narrowed my eyes. You stalked me. I observed, he replied calmly. I smiled despite myself. 10 minutes later, I was back on my scooter, helmet on, pretending the past 12 hours hadn't happened. Jun-seo's car followed at a polite distance. Just for today, he'd said. Routine matters. Great. I'd become part of a crime lord's schedule. The cafe where I worked was already buzzing. Morning rush. Steam hissing. Espresso machines screaming for mercy. My coworker Ji-yeon waved me over the moment I walked in. Girl, she hissed, eyes sparkling, you are late. Almost died, I replied. Long story. Before she could pry, the bell over the door chimed. And the temperature in the room dropped. Jun-seo walked in. No suit. No guards. Just a fitted coat, dark jeans, and that calm, dangerous face that did not belong anywhere near croissants. Every head turned. Ji-yeon gasped. Who is that? Trouble, I muttered. He walked straight to the counter. To go, he said. Americano. Ji-yeon nearly fainted. I leaned over. You can't just come here. I'm buying coffee. You're buying attention. That happens. I handed him his cup. Why are you here? To make sure you're safe. I scoffed. From what? Bad foam art? His eyes flicked to a man by the window, watching too closely, phone angled just enough. My smile faltered. Jun-seo took the cup, leaned closer, and said quietly, play along. Play what? He smiled. Then, without warning, he brushed his thumb across my wrist. Electric. Thank you, he said loudly. I'll see you later. The cafe exploded in whispers. Ji-yeon grabbed my arm the second he left. Who was that? Nobody. That was a somebody. I ignored her, heart pounding. Later that afternoon, I found him waiting across the street. Was that necessary? I asked, crossing my arms. Yes. Because now my coworkers think I'm dating a model with murder vibes. You're welcome. I rolled my eyes. You're enjoying this. A little. We walked. Side by side. The city pulsed around us, traffic, vendors, couples arguing, music spilling from open windows. You don't belong in my world, I said. Neither do you, he replied. Yet here we are. We stopped at a crosswalk. Why me? I asked. He considered. You're honest. Loud. Unafraid. Unaware, I corrected. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Then his jaw tightened. What? I asked. Nothing. That's a lie. He met my eyes. You should go home early tonight. The light changed. He stepped back. And for the first time since we met, I saw something close to fear in his eyes. That night, the city roared. I was closing the cafe when the power flickered. Once. Twice. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, stay inside. Too late. The door slammed open. 3 men rushed in. I froze. Then, Jun-seo appeared like the night itself had sent him. Fast. Precise. Controlled chaos. The men were gone in seconds. Breathing hard, I stared at him. You said stay safe, I whispered. I tried. He took my hands, checking for injuries. His touch was gentle. Real. I don't want this, I said softly. Neither do I. Silence wrapped around us, broken only by the hum of emergency lights outside. This can't happen, I added. He nodded. Then, against all reason, he smiled. That's usually when it does. And for the first time, I realized the city wasn't just watching us anymore. It was choosing sides. If the city had a sense of humor, it was laughing at me. Because less than 24 hours after I nearly got jumped at work, Jun-seo texted me 3 words that made my stomach flip. We need dinner. I stared at my phone. Typed. Deleted. Typed again. Why does that sound like a threat? 3 dots appeared. Because you're imagining it. It's a cover. A cover. That's how I ended up standing outside a sleek restaurant in Gangnam, wearing a dress I definitely didn't own yesterday, watching Jun-seo step out of his car like he'd walked straight out of a drama poster. Black suit. No tie. Calm smile. He looked unfair. You clean up well, I said, mostly to keep my knees from betraying me. So do you, he replied, eyes lingering just long enough to be dangerous. I cleared my throat. Let me guess. Rival gangs. Public sighting. We pretend to be normal people. Dating, he corrected. I laughed. You don't date. I do tonight. The host bowed and led us inside. Soft lighting. Murmured conversations. Glass walls reflecting the city's glow. I suddenly felt like every eye was on us. Jun-seo leaned closer. Relax. I am relaxed. You're gripping your purse like it owes you money. I loosened my hand. Better? Marginally. We sat. Menus opened. Water poured. This is ridiculous, I whispered. Anyone could see we're fake. He raised an eyebrow. Then make it convincing. Convincing how? He reached across the table and took my hand. Just like that. Warm. Steady. My brain short-circuited. Smile, he murmured. You're doing great. I smiled. It came out crooked. So, I said loudly, babe. His lips twitched. Yes? I kicked him lightly under the table. Ow, he deadpanned. Violence already? Occupational hazard, I said sweetly. Dinner arrived. Conversation followed, light, teasing, dangerously easy. So what do? He asked, playing along. I deliver food and judge people silently. Impressive. And you? I manage logistics. That's a lie. A selective truth. I laughed before I could stop myself. Across the room, I noticed them, 2 men watching us too closely. Suits. Cold eyes. Jun-seo noticed my glance. Don't look, he said quietly. Just talk. About what? About us. My heart skipped. There is no us. Tonight, there is. He squeezed my hand. I hated how much that worked. Halfway through dessert, a man approached our table. Tall. Smiling too much. Jun-seo, he said smoothly. Didn't expect to see you here. Jun-seo's expression didn't change. Chairman Park. The man's gaze slid to me. And you are? Before I could answer, Jun-seo stood. This is my girlfriend, he said calmly. Girlfriend. Park chuckled. Bold. Honest, Jun-seo replied. Park leaned closer to me. Be careful. Men like him don't share. Jun-seo's hand tightened around mine. Park smiled and walked away. The moment he was gone, I exhaled. That was necessary, Jun-seo finished. You didn't warn me about that part. I didn't want you to act. I looked at him. You mean you didn't trust me? He met my gaze. I trusted you to be you. I didn't know why that felt like a compliment. Outside, the city buzzed louder, like it sensed the tension between us. You okay? He asked. I should be angry, I said. But I had fun. He nodded. Me too. We stopped under a streetlight. Neon reflected in puddles around our feet. This can't continue, I said softly. I know. But if we stop now, I added, they'll think it's weakness. Yes. I looked up at him. So what's the plan? He smiled slowly. We keep pretending. Pretending what? That this isn't dangerous. And if it becomes real? His smile faded. Then, he said quietly, we'll be in trouble. A beat. I stepped closer. You already are. For the first time, he laughed, real and unguarded. And in that moment, I realized the fake date wasn't the problem. The problem was that I wanted another one. The problem with pretending is that your heart doesn't get the memo. By the third day of our very convincing fake relationship, the city had decided we were real. Photos of us leaving restaurants popped up on gossip blogs. A blurry shot of Jun-seo's hand on my back went viral in a corner of the internet I didn't know existed. Jian at the cafe practically vibrated with excitement. So, she whispered, eyes shining, your mystery boyfriend. Is he rich or secret rich? Dangerously well-funded, I muttered, steaming milk like it had personally offended me. She gasped. You're in love. I am in danger, I corrected. The bell chimed. And of course, because the universe had jokes, Jun-seo walked in. Again. Casual today. Black sweater. Calm expression. Chaos incarnate. Jian squealed softly and vanished into the back like a summoned fairy. Jun-seo leaned on the counter. Coffee. You drink too much coffee, I said. You make good coffee. That's flirting. Yes. I rolled my eyes, but my lips betrayed me with a smile. Then I noticed the man at the window. Tall. Western suit. Foreign smile. Watching Jun-seo like he was calculating interest. Jun-seo followed my gaze. His jaw tightened. Who's that? I whispered. Someone who enjoys stirring things, he said. Ignore him. Too late. The man approached. Maya, right? He said in smooth English. I'm Daniel. Jun-seo's eyes flicked to me. You know him? Jun-seo asked. Daniel smiled. We met years ago. Briefly. I blinked. I don't remember. You were busy surviving, Daniel said lightly. Anyway, Jun-seo. Word is you're distracted. Jun-seo stepped closer to me. Possessive. Subtle. Careful, he said. You're speaking to my girlfriend. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Lucky you. Lucky. That word echoed in my head as Daniel left with a wink that made my skin crawl. What was that? I asked. Nothing, Jun-seo said too quickly. That's twice today. He sighed. He's a broker. He sells information. And trouble. Why does he know me? Jun-seo didn't answer. That night, I found my answer. We were supposed to keep a low profile. So naturally, Jun-seo took me to a rooftop bar glowing like a jewel above the city. Low, I said, gesturing to the skyline. As an altitude? He smiled. Trust me. Music thumped. Laughter floated. The city stretched endlessly beneath us. I felt light. Dangerous. Alive. Then I saw Daniel again. He stood too close when he spoke to Jun-seo. Whispered. Smiled. Jealousy rose before logic could stop it. Excuse me, I said, stepping between them. He's busy. Daniel laughed. You're protective. Occupational hazard, I said sweetly. Jun-seo's hand found my waist. Possessive. Warm. Daniel leaned in. Be careful, Maya. Men like him burn everything they touch. Jun-seo's smile vanished. Leave. Daniel shrugged and walked away. The music felt louder. My chest felt tight. Why didn't you tell me? I asked Jun-seo quietly. Tell you what? That Daniel knows me. That you're keeping things from me. His jaw clenched. I'm protecting you. By lying? By limiting exposure. I laughed once, sharp. You sound like a press release. He reached for me. I stepped back. Don't, I said. I need air. I turned, pushing through the crowd. Outside, the wind cut through my dress. The city glittered, uncaring. Footsteps approached. I said I need. Jun-seo stopped in front of me. Daniel worked with your father, he said. My heart stuttered. My father's dead. So they said, he replied softly. Daniel thinks otherwise. The world tilted. You knew, I whispered. I suspected, he said. I wanted proof. And you didn't think I deserved to know? I didn't want you pulled into this. I laughed, tears stinging. I walked into a Mafia meeting with fried chicken. I'm already in it. Sirens wailed below. The city breathed. I can't keep pretending, I said. Not if the lies are real. Jun-seo looked at me then, not as a boss, not as a protector, but as a man afraid of losing something he didn't know how to keep. Then stop pretending, he said. He leaned in. Not to kiss me, but to rest his forehead against mine. I'm jealous, he admitted quietly. And that scares me. I closed my eyes. Because jealousy meant this was no longer fake. And love, real love, was the most dangerous territory of all. The city didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. I sat on the edge of Jun-seo's couch, knees pulled to my chest, watching traffic crawl like glowing ants far below the windows. My phone lay silent in my lap. No messages. No answers. Just the echo of his words looping in my head. Daniel worked with your father. I'd built my life around the idea that my father was gone, clean, final, tragic. You grieve differently when there's an ending. Now there wasn't one. Jun-seo stood by the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, controlled, but I could hear the edge beneath it. No, he said. Not tonight. Watch everyone. He ended the call and turned toward me. I should take you somewhere safer, he said. I laughed softly. Because this hasn't already destroyed my definition of safe? He winced. Maya. Tell me everything, I said. Not the edited version. The real one. He hesitated. Just for a second. Then he nodded. Your father wasn't just a driver, he began. He was an intermediary. He moved information between groups. When things went bad years ago, he vanished. Vanished, I repeated. You mean he ran? Or he was taken, Jun-seo said. Daniel believes he's alive. And that he's valuable. My chest tightened. To who? To everyone. Silence settled between us like dust. So I'm leverage, I said flatly. No, he replied immediately. You're not. Don't lie, I snapped. I can feel it. Everywhere I go, someone's watching. He stepped closer. That's why I made a decision. That's never comforting when you say it like that. I'm pulling out, he said. I blinked. Out of what? Everything, he said. The clubs. The routes. The alliances. My breath caught. Jun-seo, you can't just. I already started. I stood. Do you know what that does to your people? Yes. To you? Yes. I stared at him. Why? He didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, because I won't let them use you. Something cracked open in my chest. That's not your choice, I whispered. It is if I make it. And if they come for you? They will. And if they hurt you? They'll try. I shook my head. You don't get to be noble at my expense. He smiled sadly. I don't know how to be anything else with you. The strike came an hour later. Not loud. Not cinematic. Precise. The lights went out. The city vanished into darkness, replaced by the distant wail of sirens and the hum of generators kicking in. My heart jumped into my throat. Jun-seo moved instantly. Stay here, he ordered, already reaching for his phone. The windows shattered inward. I screamed. Glass rained across the room. Jun-seo pulled me down, covering me with his body as the city roared back to life in flickering emergency lights. Shouts echoed from below. Footsteps. Chaos. When it was over, the apartment looked like a storm had passed through it. Jun-seo stood, checking me over with shaking hands. Are you hurt? No, I breathed. Are you? He nodded once. They're escalating. Because of me. No, he said firmly. Because I refused to play. We stood there, breathing hard, city sirens bleeding into the night. This is my fault, I said. He cupped my face gently. Listen to me. None of this is your fault. You promised, I whispered. You promised to protect me. And I will, he said. Even if it costs me everything. That was when I knew. The promise he'd made, the one I never asked for, was going to break him. Later, as dawn crept over the skyline, we sat amid broken glass in silence. You should leave the city, he said quietly. I laughed. And go where? This follows me. He looked at me. Then we face it together. I searched his face. You don't mean that. I do. I leaned back, exhausted. You're terrible at pretending this is casual. He smiled faintly. You noticed. The city woke around us, horns, voices, life insisting on continuing. Jun-seo reached for my hand. I don't know how this ends, he said. But I won't lie anymore. I squeezed his fingers. Good, I said. Because if we're going down. I looked out at the city. We're doing it honestly. He laughed softly. And somewhere below, the city listened. Morning didn't ask permission. It crept into the apartment through cracked glass and broken blinds like nothing had happened. Like the city hadn't tried to kill us a few hours earlier. The sirens had faded, replaced by traffic and construction noise, soul stitching itself back together. I sat on the floor, wrapped in one of Jun-seo's coats, sipping instant coffee that tasted like regret. Jun-seo stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, listening more than speaking. Every few seconds, his jaw tightened. When he finally hung up, I didn't look at him. They're circling, he said quietly. Daniel especially. Figures, I replied. Men like him hate losing leverage. You're not leverage, Jun-seo said automatically. I finally looked up. Then stopped treating me like something fragile. Silence. He exhaled. I don't know how to protect you without controlling the situation. That's the problem, I said softly. You don't get to control me. He turned. For the first time since I met him, he looked unsure. I need you to trust me, he said. I trusted you when you didn't tell me about my father, I replied. Now it's my turn to decide something. Before he could ask what I meant, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Maya, Daniel's voice purred. You look tired. Jun-seo stiffened. How did you? Relax, Daniel said. I'm not calling to threaten you. I'm calling to offer answers. Jun-seo shook his head at me. Don't. I stood. You have 10 seconds, I said into the phone. Daniel chuckled. Your father contacted me. Last week. He's alive. The world narrowed to a single, ringing point. Jun-seo reached for me. I stepped back. Where? I asked. A warehouse by the river, Daniel replied. Come alone. Or don't. But if Jun-seo comes, the meeting won't happen. Jun-seo's voice was sharp. Hang up. I didn't. Send the location, I said. The call ended. Jun-seo stared at me like I'd just jumped off a building. You're not going, he said. I am. You don't know if it's a trap. I don't know if it's not, I shot back. And I'm done waiting for answers that other people control. He grabbed my wrist, not hard, but firm. Let me handle this. No, I said. You handle everything. This time, I do. He searched my face. If something happens, then it happens to me, I finished. Not you. Not your men. Me. A long pause. Then he released me. I'll be nearby, he said tightly. You promised no lies, I reminded him. He nodded once. No lies. The warehouse smelled like oil and cold water. The river outside moved slowly, thick and dark, reflecting the city lights like it was swallowing them whole. Inside, footsteps echoed too loudly. Daniel stood near the center, hands in his pockets, smile easy. You came, he said. I want proof, I replied. Not stories. He gestured to a chair. Sit. I didn't. He's alive, Daniel continued. But not free. He's been hiding because people like Jun-seo needed him quiet. That's a lie, I said. Daniel tilted his head. Is it? Before I could respond, footsteps sounded behind me. Jun-seo stepped out of the shadows. So much for promises. Daniel sighed. See? This is why trust is difficult. Jun-seo didn't speak. He just stood there, still, dangerous. Your father made choices, Daniel said calmly. Bad ones. He owes people. You're his collateral. Rage burned through me. I'm not anyone's collateral. Daniel smiled. That's adorable. The lights cut out. Chaos exploded. Shouting. Running. Someone fired a warning shot into the ceiling. I ducked instinctively and felt Jun-seo's hand on my shoulder, grounding me. Stay behind me, he ordered. No, I snapped. Side by side. A beat. Then he nodded. Together. By the time the lights flickered back on, Daniel was gone. So were the answers. Later, on the riverbank, the city breathing around us, Jun-seo finally spoke. You shouldn't have gone alone. I wasn't alone, I said. I had myself. He almost smiled. This is bigger than us, he said. I met his eyes. Then we get bigger too. For the first time, he laughed, not softly, not carefully, but with something like relief. You're dangerous, he said. I learn from the best, I replied. The city lights shimmered on the water. And somewhere in the distance, the truth waited, closer now. The river kept moving like it didn't care. Like secrets didn't weigh anything. We sat on the cold concrete by the water, the city lights stretching across the surface in broken lines. Jun-seo didn't touch me this time. He knew better. I needed space to breathe, space to decide whether I was angry, scared, or just exhausted. "All right," I said finally. "Start talking." He glanced at me. "About what?" "About everything you haven't said yet." He exhaled slowly. "Your father didn't disappear because he was weak." I snorted. "That's reassuring." "He disappeared because he refused a deal." I turned to him. "Whose?" "Mine." The word hit harder than I expected. "You?" I asked. "You were a kid back then." "I was learning," he said. "And I was stupid." The river lapped at the edge, steady and relentless. "My father was an information broker," Jun-seo continued. "But he was also a fixer. He cleaned up messes so people could pretend they were clean." "And you wanted him to clean yours," I said. "Yes." "And he said no." Jun-seo nodded. "He said it would ruin lives. He said some lines shouldn't be crossed." I laughed once, sharp. "Sounds like him." "He warned me," Jun-seo added quietly. "Said power always demands payment." I stared at the water. "So what happened?" "He vanished," Jun-seo said. "I thought he ran. Daniel thought he was hiding. We were both wrong." My phone buzzed. A message. "Unknown number, warehouse. Basement level. Come now." Jun-seo's eyes flicked to the screen. "No," he said immediately. "Yes," I replied just as fast. "This is exactly how people get trapped. This is exactly how people stop being ghosts," I shot back. We stared at each other. Then Jun-seo sighed. "We do this together." "I didn't say you were invited." He smiled faintly. "You did with your eyes." The warehouse basement smelled like rust and damp concrete. A single bulb flickered overhead, casting long shadows that made everything look guilty. Footsteps echoed before we saw him. A man stepped into the light. Older. Thinner. Beard flecked with gray. My chest seized. "Dad?" He froze. Then his shoulders sagged. "Maya," he said. "You shouldn't be here." I laughed through the sting in my eyes. "That makes two of us." We stood there, staring at each other like strangers who shared a lifetime. "I stayed away to protect you," he said. "You stayed away and let me think you were dead," I snapped. "Do you know what that does to someone?" He looked at Jun-seo. "I told you she was strong." Jun-seo didn't speak. "You owe people," I said. "Daniel says I'm collateral." My father's face hardened. "Daniel lies. He's very convincing." "That's his job," my father said. "But he doesn't own you." "He never did." "Then why now?" I asked. "Why reach out?" My father hesitated. Jun-seo tensed. "Because they're closing in," my father admitted. "And because Jun-seo is dismantling things faster than they can react." I turned sharply. "What?" Jun-seo met my gaze. "I told you I was pulling out. You didn't say you were burning everything down. I didn't want to worry you." I laughed. "Too late." My father nodded slowly. "He's forcing the city to choose. Chaos or confession." Sirens wailed in the distance. "We don't have time," my father said. "Daniel wants a trade." "Me," I said flatly. "You," he confirmed. "For his records. Names. Routes. Everything." Jun-seo stepped forward. "No." My father raised a hand. "Listen to me. This ends one of two ways. Either she disappears again, or you give Daniel what he wants." "And if I do?" Jun-seo asked. "Then you lose your empire," my father said. "But you keep her alive." Silence pressed in on us. I looked at Jun-seo. At the man who once ruled shadows. At the man who made ramen at midnight and pretended not to like my jokes. At least let me choose, I said. He closed his eyes. Just for a second. No, he said. I already did. Later, on the drive back, the city blurred past the windows. You shouldn't have decided for me, I said. I decided with you in mind, he replied. That's not the same thing. He glanced at me. I know. We stopped at a red light. Jun-seo, I said quietly. If you give Daniel what he wants, I'll be free, he said. Just not powerful. I studied him. Do you regret meeting me? He smiled softly. I regret not meeting you sooner. The light turned green. The city surged forward. And somewhere behind us, Daniel prepared to collect his due. The city felt tighter that night. Like it had clenched its fists around us and was waiting to see who would break first. We stood on opposite sides of Jun-seo's living room, the space between us heavy with everything we hadn't said in the car. The skyline glittered outside, indifferent. Beautiful. Cruel. You don't get to decide alone, I said, breaking the silence. Jun-seo loosened his cuffs slowly, deliberately. I already decided. That's not what I meant. He met my eyes. It's the only move that ends this without you disappearing again. You're talking like you're already gone. He smiled faintly. Habit. I crossed my arms. Tell me the truth. The whole thing. He exhaled. Daniel wants my ledgers. Names, routes, accounts. Everything that keeps the underworld breathing. And if you give them to him, the city goes quiet, he said. For a while. And you? I become a liability. I swallowed. Meaning? Meaning the people who still believe in power will want me erased. I laughed once, bitter. So this is you saving me by volunteering yourself. I'm not volunteering, he said gently. I'm choosing. There was a knock at the door. One knock. Precise. Jun-seo stiffened. I didn't move. He checked the camera feed and frowned. That's impossible. Let me guess, I said. Someone you trusted. He opened the door. It was Min-jae. Jun-seo's right-hand man. Quiet. Efficient. Loyal since before I'd entered this mess. Boss, Min-jae said, bowing slightly. Daniel is ready. Jun-seo's eyes narrowed. How did you know where we were? Min-jae didn't hesitate. Because I told him. The air snapped. I felt it before I understood it. Betrayal had a temperature, and it was ice cold. You? Jun-seo said softly. Min-jae straightened. You're destroying everything we built. I'm ending it, Jun-seo replied. You're handing it over, Min-jae snapped. To outsiders. Jun-seo stepped forward. Get out. Min-jae's gaze flicked to me. She's the problem. I didn't flinch. You could have just said you were scared. The slap came fast. Not from Min-jae. From Jun-seo. The sound cracked through the room. Min-jae stared, stunned. Leave, Jun-seo said quietly. Now. Min-jae left. And just like that, another piece of Jun-seo's world shattered. The exchange was set for dawn. A parking structure beneath a half-finished mall, concrete, exposed steel, the kind of place where echoes told secrets before people did. Daniel stood near a black sedan, hands clasped, smiling like he was hosting a dinner party. Jun-seo walked forward alone. I stayed back, hidden, ignored, furious. Right on time, Daniel said. Did you bring me a city? Jun-seo handed over a drive. Everything you wanted. Daniel weighed it in his hand. And the girl? Jun-seo's jaw tightened. She's not part of this. Daniel laughed. Everyone's part of this. Before I could move, Min-jae stepped out from behind a pillar. Armed. I'm sorry, he said, to Jun-seo, not to me. Daniel raised a brow. Efficient. Min-jae aimed at Jun-seo. Time slowed. I ran. No! The gunshot echoed like thunder. Jun-seo staggered. I reached him as he fell, catching his weight, my knees slamming into concrete. Blood spread fast. Too fast. Hey, I said, pressing my hands against the wound. You don't get to nap right now. He smiled weakly. You always hated my timing. Daniel cursed. Idiot, he snapped at Min-jae. I wanted him alive. Sirens wailed in the distance. Min-jae panicked and ran. Daniel backed away. This isn't over. He disappeared into the shadows. I cradled Jun-seo, hands shaking. Stay with me, I whispered. You promised no lies. He coughed. This isn't a lie. Lights flooded the structure. Shouts. Chaos. Police. Paramedics. As they pulled him from my arms, Jun-seo caught my hand. Listen, he said, voice barely there. If I don't. You will, I snapped. Don't you dare finish that sentence. He smiled. Bossy. They wheeled him away. The city roared back to life. And for the first time since I met him, I was truly afraid I might lose him. Hospitals have a way of shrinking time. Minutes stretch. Hours collapse. You count breaths instead of clocks. I sat in a plastic chair under fluorescent lights that hummed like tired insects, my jacket stained with someone else's blood, my phone buzzing with messages I couldn't bring myself to read. Outside the window, the city moved on, traffic flowing, coffee shops opening, life insisting on normal. Jun-seo lay somewhere beyond those doors, stitched between worlds. A doctor finally appeared. Middle-aged. Calm. He's stable, she said. I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath until I let it go. He'll recover, she added. But his life will look different. I smiled weakly. Good. He needed a redesign. News broke by noon. Not with explosions or speeches, but with files. Anonymous drops. Ledgers. Names. Routes. Everything Daniel wanted, released to the authorities and the press at once. The city buzzed with disbelief. Arrests followed. Raids. Confessions. A quiet earthquake that cracked the underworld open. Daniel vanished. So did Min-jae. By evening, Jun-seo's empire wasn't dismantled. It was erased. I saw Jun-seo the next day. He looked smaller without the weight of power pressing on his shoulders. Pale. Bruised. Alive. You look terrible, I said. He smiled faintly. You should see the other guy. I pulled a chair close and took his hand. They're saying you planned it, I told him. That the deal was a distraction. He nodded once. I couldn't win by holding on. So I let go. And Daniel? He'll resurface, Jun-seo said. Men like him always do. But not here. I squeezed his fingers. You burned your whole life down. He met my eyes. I built a better one. For a moment, the machines beeped and the city felt far away. Do you regret it? I asked quietly. He shook his head. I regret the timing. I laughed through tears. Still terrible at that. Recovery took weeks. During that time, the city learned how to live without him. Nightclubs reopened under new owners. Streets felt quieter. Safer. The air lost some of its edge. People whispered his name less and less, until it sounded like a rumor instead of a threat. Jun-seo learned how to walk without guards. How to wait in line. How to make coffee without burning it. I learned how to stop looking over my shoulder. We moved into a smaller place, no skyline, no floor-to-ceiling glass. Just sunlight, street noise, and a neighbor who sang off-key every morning. Jun-seo hated it. Then he started humming along. One evening, we sat on the roof of our building, sharing convenience store ramen, the city glowing softer now, like it had forgiven us. "What are you going to do?" I asked. He thought for a moment. "Something boring." I smiled. "That's hot." He laughed. "Real. Free." "And you?" he asked. "I'm done delivering food," I said. "I'm opening a café." "Dangerous move." "I like risk," I replied. "Within reason." He nudged my shoulder. "You changed everything." "So did you." We sat in comfortable silence, the kind you earn. Weeks later, a message arrived. No number. No name. "It's over. Live well." Jun-seo read it. Then deleted it. "No more ghosts," he said. I nodded. No more shadows. The city at dawn was kinder. We walked hand in hand through streets that no longer whispered warnings. The past stayed behind us, not erased, but finally quiet. "I didn't fall for you on purpose," I said. He smiled. "Neither did I." "But we stayed," I added. He stopped walking and faced me fully. "That was the choice," he said. I leaned in and kissed him, slow, certain, unafraid. The city watched. Then, finally, it let us go.